Hey guys, it's Ken Maxfield, the Hide Guy. I am the president and the owner of the Maxfield Report, and this is your recap for week ending September the 6th. Last week, the big news in the trade was all of the members across the globe got together in Shanghai for the All China Leather Exhibition. It was the 22nd edition of this fair, and according to a number of people who attended the show, the general consensus was there wasn't as many people exhibiting or attending as last year, slightly lower. A lot of comments about some empty spaces in the various hallways. As far as what went down last week, as far as business, as expected, a couple of the Packers did not attend. A couple of Packers that were there had limited offers at the start of the show. Apparently, after day one, on the morning of day two, offers increased. Accusations that one of them might even had a complete full list of offers. Throughout the week, interest was not great. The number of bids very similar to what we've seen in the last 4 weeks. And the end of the day, the popular opinion of most pundits was there wasn't enough bids to consider. The business that was done, Packers were reluctant to take any less money, with most trying to hold steady and buyers perceiving that this market's under pressure. They were bidding lower. Long story short, the limited number of sales that were concluded were done at steady to maybe possibly slightly lower levels. And very clearly, even with a reduced harvest this past week, very unlikely that Packers sold a week's worth of production. Talking about the cowhides, very similar situation. We hear reports that most of the producers had very large lists of offers, buyers trying to bid and prices lower. With the exception of only one person I know of, I don't think there was enough business concluded last week other than some, very, courtesy type business amongst tanners. Prices steady to slightly lower on what was done. So overall, the consensus of the trade is there were some pretty long faces for those selling hides, regardless of where you are, your origins from, and very unlikely anybody's going to claim that there were a lot of hides sold last week. As far as the harvest in the United States, as mentioned last week was a holiday. The number came in at 565. Compares to 644 the week before and 571 the same week last year. A side note to keep in mind, those who like to count the Packers' money are talking about margins currently running around $400, maybe north of $400 per head. This is unprecedented levels. No doubt that's going to encourage the Packers to kill as many cattle as they possibly can. The offset of that's going to be they can't run too hard because they can't risk burning their help out, because labor, the unemployment number is very low in the States. Labor is very hard to come by. So Packers are going to try to play a balancing game. And the wild card in all this is the perception of many pundits is that there's a lot of cattle standing right now. And for the next 2 months, there's going to be plenty of cattle, and if we don't harvest at a rate of 650 to 675 possibly, we won't burn through all these cattle, and we're going to have heavyweight cattle as we head into winter. So something to keep an eye on, because that means your hide weights are going to be heavier than normal. So keep an eye on that. Going around the globe, our friends from Europe tell us that there's really no change in their market. There's a lot of sense amongst the trade that maybe the bottom of the market has upon us. Producers unwilling to take any less money. Efforts to get more money are being met with a considerable amount of resistance. Many people pointing to the fact that the big packer market in the United States looks like there's some underlying pressure, so they're reluctant to give any money higher. So again, not aware of anybody who in Europe that had hides to sell during the last week, reporting they had strong sales, and again, some pretty long faces. Down in Brazil, continues to be lots of pressure down there. We continue to hear the only hide which can be sold at any kind of a profit would be TR1s, and that's very negligible. Anything lower than a TR1, you're losing money on if you're producing those. fresh hides. There's so many fresh hides. The packers are going to the landfill after they've went to every possible buyer. It's just too many hides being produced down there, and they really have an overall tough situation going on. Our friends in Australia tell us that there's really no change in their market. Harvest numbers are running a little higher than a year ago due to drought-like conditions in some parts of the country. That is weighing on cattle numbers. We're starting to see numbers tighten up, but with the drought conditions, the farmers do not want to continue to try to feed them grass. So one thing to keep in mind is we're seeing larger numbers than a year ago. That's setting the stage for next year to see harvest numbers probably running. Some people are saying as much as maybe 8 to 10%. Some people I've talked to said they are even thinking maybe more like 12 or 14% lower than this year. So you have to see how that plays out there. The only other thing I have to share with you today is the USDA export report came out on Friday due to the holiday in the United States. Nothing really to write home about. Whole cattle hide sales at 343,000. Exports respectable at 447,000. Wet blue sales continue to be miserable at 55,000. And exports of wet blue not too shabby at 132. The thing to note on this, in the last 4 weeks, the United States has produced almost 1 million more hides than what we've sold, bases this report that I'm looking at. That does not include any domestic soak, but that continues to lead me to the opinion that there's a lot of smoke and mirrors being used in the United States right now, and there's some serious underlying pressure facing this market. Not trying to talk the market lower. I just don't believe that a lot of these guys are advertising they have these strong sold forward positions are perhaps misleading people, and I think that you're going to start to see a lot more offers, possibly guys willing to negotiate prices, and I think we're going to see a correction in prices as we move forward. So that's it for this week. Ken Maxfield, the Hide Guy. Check out my website, www.themaxfieldreport.com. I offer free 14-day trials. Until next week, we'll see you then. Thanks.